Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Corfidge, and today we're going to talk about bullying and bullying prevention, what you can do to show amazing pride and to help our school be a bully-free community. So the goals for today are to understand what is bullying and what is not bullying, because there's a huge difference there, to learn how to prevent or to stop bullying so you too can be a huge participant in this, and to understand that we are all different and there's no excuse to bully just because someone doesn't look like you, act like you, talk like you, have the same things as you. That's bullying when you don't understand that we are different. So by the end of today's lesson, I am hopeful that you can tell the difference between what is bullying and what is not bullying, that you know how to prevent or stop bullying. So when you see it, you're going to know what to do and who to tell, and that you understand that we are all different and that you should not bully. So what is bullying? Well, bullying is something that you do that is repeated over and over again. So it's not just one time. It's not an accident. It's not just maybe you just had a really off day and you were not very nice to someone. That's not bullying. So it's repeated actions or threats. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about what these mean. It's a power imbalance. So if you try to say, well, if you don't do this, I'm going to tell, that's power. That's not okay. That's bullying. And then if you intentionally want to cause harm, so you want to hurt someone and you want to do it over and over again. So you have to figure out, okay, how do we get around those? How do we learn what that really means? And when someone's joking around or they think they're being funny, there's a difference there. So every one of you that is listening today, you have to understand that you are a bystander. And a bystander means that you stand by and you watch it happen. If you do that and you don't do anything to help, then there could be consequences for you as well. So bullying can be physical, it can be verbal, it could be psychological, or any combination of the three. So what do those mean exactly? Well, physical bullying means that you are hitting, you're kicking, you're punching, you're spitting, you're tripping. And again, not an accident, not just once or twice, but over and over and over again. Verbal, you could tease someone, you could call them names, or you could even write. So it could be a written threat. Maybe you leave a post-it. Or since we're talking about, we're in so many of our e-learning days, maybe you're on your Google Classroom and you say something inappropriate, or you send an email that's inappropriate. Cyberbullying is huge, and there are huge consequences for when we misuse our Chromebooks. There's also social bullying. So that would be that you exclude. Does anybody know what exclude means? When you exclude someone. So that means that you are purposely not playing with them. You're purposely telling, everybody else, oh, stay away from them. We don't want to include them. Maybe you're spreading rumors. Rumors are not positive. That's not showing pride behavior. Or you make embarrassing comments. So you're making fun of someone. And again, remember, bullying is something that you do it over and over. So if you're a bystander and you see these things, how are we going to react to what we see and what we hear? So what is not bullying? So if all of those things are bullying, and if it's repeated and it's happening over and over again, and or someone's using their power and saying, I'm going to tell on you, or they're intentionally trying to harm you, those are pretty serious things. So what is not a type of bullying? So for us, not bullying would be simply disliking someone. Okay, so you have a right to not like someone. However, just because we don't like them doesn't mean that we're mean to them. Okay, so our philosophy is when you walk through the doors at TJ, you're friends with everyone, you get along with everyone. That doesn't mean that you have to hang out after school or you have to hang out on the weekends. Okay, but when we're inside of our walls at TJ and on our buses, we are showing our pride and we're being respectful to everyone. Exclusion. So we talked a little bit about exclusion and how that is a type of bullying. So Dr. Corfidge, you're confusing me a little bit because right here you said excluding someone. Well, excluding someone over and over again, remember that word repetition, repeat, we're doing it over and over again, that's going to be bullying. But when you just do it once because you need a break from someone, that's a little different, okay? Making a joke about someone. You may think it's funny and you might think that they are in on the joke and that they think it's funny, but it can be hurtful, okay? But that's not necessarily bullying, all right? So you can make a joke, but that's not considered bullying. Is it a nice thing to do? No, it's not a nice thing to do. Arguing. We have, I'm sure, have all had an argument before. That's not bullying. Okay. Isolated. So what's that word isolated mean? Isolated means it's a one-time thing. It's happened once. Okay. So maybe you're just having a bad day and you are being very mean to somebody. That's not bullying. Okay. So these things are not bullying, especially when they're only happening once or twice. Okay. So there's a huge difference between those. And it's really, really hard sometimes to understand, okay, what is bullying and what is not bullying? So if you're ever confused or you ever have questions, you need to ask your teacher or Miss Minio or Miss James or Dr. Corfidge, because you need to kind of understand, okay, what is the difference and what should I look for and what should I not look for? Okay. So we're going to read a book today, and it's called The Juice Box Bully, and it's one of my favorite books about bullying. And the reason is because it's actually stuff that you could see here at TJ happen. Okay. I would hope that it wouldn't, but it's things that happen on the playground, happen at recess. So we're going to read The Juice Box Bully, and then at the end, you're going to, hopefully, thinking back to the reason why we're doing this today, you're going to be able to say, okay, I can tell the difference between what is bullying and what is not bullying. I know something that I can do to stop or prevent bullying. And I understand now that all people are different and that we're not all the same. So I have to have an open mind. So let's read The Juice Box Bully, Empowering Kids to Stand Up for Others. So think about, while we're reading, how are you going to stand up and how are you going to put into practice what we just learned about what is bullying and what is not. So this book is by Bob Sorensen and Maria Desmondi, and it's illustrated by Kim Shaw. As Pete stood in front of his new class, Mr. Peltzer announced, "Let's welcome Pete to our team. Pete, you will be sitting behind Ralph." Can you see? New kid in school, okay, everyone? Settling into his seat, Pete pulled his hat down over his head so that only his eyes could be seen. Turning around, Ralph warned him, "They don't allow hats in class here." "You're not my mother," snarled Pete. After giving an assignment, Mr. Peltzer walked around the class and quietly asked Pete to remove his hat. Once he walked away, Pete poked Ralph. "Thanks a lot," he growled. Later that day at recess, Pete didn't ask to join the soccer game. Instead, he watched. So from what I am reading so far, I see that Pete is one of our characters, and it looks to me like Pete's new to this school. And Pete's a little upset probably because he's new to a school, he doesn't know anyone, and it seemed like maybe Ralph was trying to help him out a little bit, but Pete didn't think that he was helping. He didn't like that. So I'm sure some of you could put yourself in Pete's shoes right now and think about, oh, I was new to a school once, or even the first day of school. Yeah, I knew some of my classmates, but it was a new class and I was a little nervous and I know how I felt. So how did you react? Let's see how Pete reacts. "Hi, Pete," Ralph said. "Do you want to get into the game?" "Not with those nerds," Pete replied. "I don't like those kids." "What do you want to do?" asked Ralph. Pete smiled spitefully. Spitefully. Can you show me a smile that you would smile spitefully? Which means you have something up here that you're thinking about doing that's probably not a good choice. "Let's steal the ball. We're bigger than them. We can have our own game." "I don't think so," answered Ralph. "That's not how we do things around here." "Then I'll do it myself," taunted Pete, "if you're so afraid." So there we go with that taunting. Okay, he's saying, I'll do it. Pete ran over to the field and yelled, "Pass it to me." When David passed the soccer ball, Pete grabbed it and ran off the field. "What's going on?" shouted David. Pete didn't answer. He ran faster and faster, then turned and waved the ball in the air. At first, the kids just stood there. Then they huddled together before walking over to Pete. Ruby and Lucy led the way. "I know you're new around here, but what are you doing?" asked Ruby. "I'm playing with the soccer ball," Pete snapped. "Think you're going to take it away from me?" Ruby didn't argue, nor did she threaten Pete. Instead, she softly but firmly explained, "It's your first day here, so there is no way you could know this. In Mr. Peltzer's class, we made a promise. We promised to take care of ourselves, each other, and our classroom, and to solve problems peacefully. We promised that in this class, no one would stand and accept bad behavior. When someone acts hurtfully, we all speak up. We want you to be a member of the class and to make the same promise. Dumb rules, dumb promises. Throwing the ball to the ground, Pete walked away. So, looking back at what she said about their classroom promise. So, have you guys in your classrooms discussed what are the expectations that we have in our classroom? What promises do we want to make, especially maybe after our bullying lesson? What promises can we make from this point forward as far as supporting each other and showing pride to each other? So, Pete, he's not accepting this, is he? The next day, Pete ate alone. When he finished lunch, the kids raced out of the lunchroom while Pete trailed behind. Ruby ran up to Pete and asked, "Do you want to play soccer today?" "I don't play with nerds." "Okie dokie," Ruby replied. "Hey, Ruby," Pete called after her. Ruby stopped and turned. "Nice shirt," Pete complimented. Then he squirted his juice box right at her. "You are so mean," she shrieked at him. "I'll tell everyone how mean you are. You won't have any friends here." By now, Ralph, David, and some others had come up to them. "Ruby, I won't let you do that," Ralph said clearly. "Remember our promise?" "I don't want to remember the promise. Look what he did. We'll ignore him forever until he leaves the school and goes back to his old school," Ruby demanded. Now Ruby's really frustrated because her feelings are very hurt, isn't she? Ralph walked between Ruby and Pete. "We're not going to do this, Ruby. I know you're angry. You can tell Mr. Peltzer if you want, but we're not going to let you treat Pete like this. And we won't put up with his bad behavior either." So these are the bystanders that we talk about. So they are standing by. They're not going to just let it happen. They're going to help to problem solve. Ruby stomped away, leaving Pete and Ralph behind. Oops, sorry guys. "No one's ever done that before," Pete said. "Why did you stand up for me?" "I've been in your shoes, and I learned being a bully doesn't work." So maybe Pete's thinking about some things. "And I'm not a bystander," Ralph said. "I don't stand by and let mean things happen. Besides, Ruby is my friend, and you shouldn't have ruined her shirt." "Won't the other kids be mad at you for sticking up for me?" Pete asked. "No way. They all made the same promise. We talked about it for a long time with Mr. Peltzer, and every kid here tries to keep that promise." "At my old school, I got picked on all the time," Pete said. "Everybody just let it happen. So I started to tease kids before they could be mean to me." So now we know. Now we know that Pete had some hurt feelings coming from an old school. So when he came to his new school, he thought, I'm just going to be mean to them because that's what everybody did to me. It's an interesting concept. Has anything like that ever happened to you guys? Let's see how Ralph handles it. Ralph replied, "We decided that when somebody tries to be a bully, no one will stand by and let it happen. We speak up, or we ask for help from an adult, but we won't be bystanders to bad behavior." All right, so that's a really important part right there. We speak up, or we ask for help from an adult. The bell rang, and it was time to go back to class. "They hate me. They'll never let me play with them," Pete said. Before Ralph could answer, David, Lucy, and Ruby came toward them. "I'm sorry about what I said," Ruby apologized. "I can't believe I forgot the reason why we made the promise. If we can remember to stand up for each other, school is a lot more fun." "Wow, the kids here are way different than at my other school," Pete said. "Maybe I'll give this promise thing a try." "Great, let's go talk to Mr. Peltzer," said Ruby. "Hey, Ruby, sorry about your shirt," Pete added. Ruby smiled. "No worries, I kind of like the new look." Everyone laughed as Pete and Ruby led the way into class. All right, so from the beginning of our story to the end of the story, Pete has changed quite a bit. And Pete learned a lot about getting along with others and about how he could change his thoughts and his opinions. But we also learned why Pete was a little upset at first, because Pete at his old school, remember, he was made fun of. So that hurt Pete's feelings, causing him to start acting out towards others. So you know how we talk about empathy sometimes? That means putting yourself in someone else's shoes and the way that they have to go through life every day. So maybe if we see somebody having a bad day, we can ask them, hey, you want to play today? Or if we see someone playing alone, we say, hey, do you want to play today? Or maybe you just say, if there's anything I can do, let me know if you see somebody not having a great day. Okay? So that's how you can make a promise. So I want you guys to think about parts of the story and about the promise that Mr. Peltzer's class made. And we don't know what the exact promise it was, but we know parts of it. So over the next couple of slides, you're going to be working through with your teacher some parts of the story. So we're going to be looking at who is, or what's the setting, who are the characters, what was the problem that Pete faced or that was in the story, and then how did they solve that? Then what I want you to look at is you're going to, sorry everyone. Maybe. So you're going to find your story map, okay, and you can do that with your teacher. Then this is where we're going to be able to figure out, okay, where did we meet our goal? Can you tell the difference between standing up for others and a bystander? So you're going to look at these at the bottom and you're going to put them in the column where they go. All right. And then it's going to be your turn and you're going to choose a juice box and you're going to write about a time when you saw someone being bullied, but you didn't do anything about it. And that's okay because now we know. Or when maybe you were someone who has been bullied and you want to write about that. Or you saw someone else being bullied and you stood up for them. So there's a couple different things you can put on your juice box. For our kindergarten and first graders, I'd like for you guys to draw a picture of what you've learned today from our story. Okay, and it could just be one part of the story maybe you want to draw a picture of. But what is it that you've learned from Pete's story? So here, if I see a bully, what can you do? All right, so first grade, you're going to draw this picture. What can you do when you see bullying? All right, and then the last thing is, this is a little pledge. It's not the same pledge that Mr. Peltzer's class had, I don't think anyway, but this is just kind of a pledge. I will speak up instead of acting as a bystander. I choose to participate in activities that don't involve teasing. I forgive others if they make poor choices. That's huge because you have to forgive others when they've had a bad day. I model good behavior. What's that model word mean? That means that you're showing it each and every day. So every day we say our PAW motto and that we're going to make smart and safe choices. This is you doing that. I accept others for their differences, okay? We're not all the same, and that's what makes us amazing. I include others in the group situation. So if I'm playing at recess and there's somebody that's kind of sitting off to the side, maybe I say, hey, you want to join us? They may say no, and that's okay. We can't get upset at them for that. And then I will talk to an adult when there is a problem I cannot manage on my own. Okay, so if you see something, hear something, you need to say something. But remember what is not bullying and what is bullying because you don't want to tattle, okay? I am powerful in making a difference in my school. So if we all do this and we all act like the characters in the story, what will TJ look like? What kind of school will we have? We'll have an amazing school that is bully-free, and we all respect that we're all going to have bad days or off days, but we know we're going to take care of each other in the end. So boys and girls, going back to our goals from the very beginning, I hope that you have, I'm going to go here. I hope that now you are able to, maybe, I lost you. Okay, I hope that you can tell the difference between what is bullying and not bullying. I hope that you've learned how to prevent or to stop bullying, and I hope that you have recognized that all of us are different. So I hope that you have those things, and I hope that you've learned a lot from our lesson, and it's been so awesome to share this great topic with you guys. So I can't wait to see what you come up with on your juice boxes, And thank you so much.